7:34 morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Tamsin.
Good morning to you. Well, let's take a look at the front pages first of all. Let's go to the front page of the Times. The BBC chairman has undermined trust in the BBC over the Boris Johnson loan, according to MPs.
The Observer has Michael Gove and David Lammy joining secret cross-party talks, not so secret actually, cross-party talks, held to confront the failings of Brexit.
The main story in the Sunday Express is a 30th anniversary of James Bulger's murder, as James's brother has urged Dominic Raab to keep killer John Venables in jail for life.
Sun on Sunday says a witness has told police he saw two men acting suspiciously close to Nicola Bulley's dog walking route the day before she disappeared.
And the Star leads with the Fuel Monty as nudists put on clothes as heating bills rocket.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
I think you.
I mean,
it's only sensible. Really.
It is only sensible. I mean, anyway, let's go through the papers now with anthropologist Mariana Hotter and deputy editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. Morning to you both.
Morning.
Let's have a look at the Sunday Times then. Richard Sharp, chairman of the BBC, has undermined trust in the BBC, according to a committee of MPs.
Yeah, so this is a long, rumbling row. Richard Sharp is alleged to have facilitated a loan for Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister. If you can believe it, Boris Johnson was struggling with his finances despite his 100k plus salary. It's reading this, it's a really, different world, and he was given an £800,000 loan by someone called Sam Blythe, who is also a distant cousin of Boris, and Richard Sharp is kind of in there as the kind of middleman, essentially, or is alleged to be. Now, Sharp revealed this to the Cabinet Secretary.
Wait, hang on, but then crucially, Boris Johnson recommended Richard Sharp to become the chairman of the BBC.
Yes, so there's
kind of a pretty crucial bit of the, like, oh, I've done this thing for you, you've done this thing for me.
Yeah.
And Sharp told the Cabinet Secretary about this, but the Cabinet Secretary didn't disclose it. And MPs are saying that, when he was being scrutinised for the role, when Sharp was being scrutinised for the role, why didn't he bring this up? And essentially now there's cause for him to resign because it all looks a bit
I was asking people earlier on if you actually care, because I don't know what the BBC chairman does, and so, I imagine most of you don't either. Do you really care? It's interesting. Joy says what matters is backhanders and favours for mates at our expense. Frank says, of course it matters how the BBC chair was appointed. Another example of jobs for the boys.
Yvonne, though, I have zero interest in the BBC chairman. It was a private thing, nothing to do with us, the public. Do you think that's it?
No, because the BBC is a public broadcaster.
Yeah.
It is literally our national broadcaster, and the chair has a hugely influential role in determining the way that the trust is operated, oversight of what the BBC is doing, the transparency of the organisation, and the fact that it's a publicly funded role. So the whole jobs for the boys kind of idea, it's like, oh, don't worry about getting the best person for the job, we'll just get Boris's mate in.
Well, Jake in Southampton says the point is the loan is not just randomly someone getting a loan, it's part of a political exchange, a bribery. Thought we were a country with higher moral standards.
There you go.
Well, the viewers and listeners agreeing with you, Marianne. Who'd have thunk it?
Very rarely me.
I know, but there you go. OK, Marianne, let's have a look at The Observer. Should be primary schools not hitting targets when it comes to maths and English.
Are you ready for a bit more government bashing?
Go on, then.
Are you ready, everybody?
Well, this matters, actually.
It really does. It really, really does. So there's a target that 90% of children will achieve expected standards in reading, writing and maths. So they're the ones sort of that are measured at the end of the primary when you're about 10, 11. The target is 90% by 2030. It's currently 41%.
41?
Yes. That's pretty rubbish. 41% are missing the target.
Oh, right, so it's 60%.
So 59% are achieving the target. It's still pretty rubbish, let's be honest, because at the point, if you haven't got a basic, solid grounding in maths, reading, literacy...
The 3 R's, which is always very confusing.
Oh, yeah, because you have to spell everything wrong. Yeah, there you go.
Right,
I mean, you're going into secondary school on not even on the back foot. You're on your bum.
Why is this then? Big classes? I mean, there are up
It's
to
partly
30,
big classes.
31.
It's partly under-resourced staff. It's partly the fact that if
do we blame bad teachers? I mean, I say that reluctantly because my mum was a primary school teacher. I know how hard they work, so I say it reluctantly.
Well, I mean, you certainly need professional standards that mean that if there is a teacher who is failing to meet the needs of their pupils, or perhaps a whole school as a kind of an ecosystem that is failing to meet the needs of their whole community, then yes, that needs to be, I don't know, how robustly dealt with, rather than a teacher kind of being moved sideways or, you know, finding another job and just getting shunted on. But fundamentally, the good teachers who are there don't have the resources to do their job. And there was this government-backed report that came out saying that the education recovery programme needed billions of investment, and what they're getting is millions of investment in order to compensate for the challenges that the pandemic has thrown up. And there's kind of cases of kids coming into nursery school, into reception year, who don't have speaking skills that they would expect. So one of the things that is suggested in this article is that there's one person who's Lee Elliott Major. He's a professor of social mobility at the University of Exeter, and he says that it's our failure to equip all students with basic skills was the biggest scandal of our educational system, because basically you can't come back from that. But he says new thinking is required, and he thinks national parental participation is key. So supporting parents to support their kids.
Well, parents should be doing
all the other hours that they're not at school.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Parents should be doing more. A child's education is not purely, you don't drop them off at school and then forget about it.
No, exactly. But what we're seeing is an ever widening. It's now the attainment gap between the most well-off families and the least well-off families is growing. And what that tells you is that it's not just about individual responsibility, it's about systemic inequality. Because actually, if your parents are working 3 jobs to pay the bills, then who's sitting down with you to do reading over tea time?
To say.
Can't. It's just there's no one there.
And the working day is not 9 till 3. This is a whole thing about working.
If you're
parents,
a kind of
so
white,
short.
Exactly, and if you're a white-collar professional and you go, well, I can work flexibly and I'll pick up my emails in the evening after the kids have gone to bed. Great. Bully for you. But some people can't do that because they're doing shift work, because they have to be there because the shop is open, whatever it is. So it massively unfairly impacts some families.
Mind you, you can be rich but not very bright.
Excellent segue.
Let's have a look at the Sunday Express and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Well, I'm shocked to hear that Harry and Meghan have got plenty of lucrative new television and potentially more podcast deals in the pipeline, because I would have thought that Harry has essentially revealed everything there is to know about his life in his memoir. I know who he lost his virginity to. I know how many people he's killed. I know about the frostbite body parts. But apparently there's more. Well, clearly TV execs think there's more demand in there. You know, in the same way, I suppose, that people like to slow down for a car crash.
But is this actually going to be about their private life, or
there's a whole range of things being discussed. There's more potential Netflix programs potentially about their private life. I mean, the first Netflix series is actually remarkably not very revealing, you know, because it seemed to have their stamp on everything, so we didn't really learn.
But it had very good viewers, and the book is, you know, we've all said how awful. Who's going to read the book? It's sold like crazy. There's even talk of Harry being asked, invited onto US TV to be a commentator on the coronation, which would be extraordinary. Imagine if he took the millions for that and didn't turn up to the actual. This is where I get annoyed by the media, who we criticise Harry and Meghan for doing all of this, but it's the media who says, "Oh, we'll give you a massive contract." We'll have whichever news corporation it is in the States, we'll pay you a lot of money to commentate on this, which is I think, is where it all goes horribly wrong. It's a bit like the Matt Hancock thing. No one ever slams ITV for giving Matt Hancock £350,000 for doing I'm a Celebrity. Matt Hancock shouldn't have taken it. Shouldn't have been offered to him, actually.
Well, I mean, surprisingly nanny state-ish of you.
Not nanny state.
You know about individual responsibility and choice. That,
well, yes, there is individual.
Someone could offer me to, I don't know, walk around my neighbourhood giving drugs to old people, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well,
actually, a bad example, because that's illegal, so
yeah, well, yes, but I do think there is also sort of corporate responsibility, isn't there, to say, actually, why are we doing this? We know we're just milking this for it's going to be terrible publicity, or it's going to cause a scandal. Let's do it because we'll get more viewers. I just think it's terrible. Just very quickly, Mary Ann, look at the time. Just want to ask, because I love this, in the Sunday Times, a young scientist who wants to make crisp packets into shirts.
This is a young lad called Jacob Nathan. He's 22 years old. He was doing a school project. I mean, to be fair, he was like at the point of finishing school, and it was a pretty privileged school with all the backing of family and family connections. But he was doing a school project. You know, most people, I don't know, like make something out of papier-mâché or what have you. He thought, we need to tackle plastic pollution. Yeah. And there must be a chemical way of breaking down plastic into its constituent hydrocarbon parts. Started to experiment, sort of did his school project, got the highest marks, obviously, but then gave up his university place to go into business with a scientist, and then recruited lots of investment funding and wants to roll out this enzyme plastic biodegradation process as a commercial thing. So basically he's got loads of investment backing. They've set up their own lab. He hasn't got anything more than his sort of high school qualifications. And he says the thing that I really loved about it, how's he successfully persuaded investors to back his dream? He doesn't talk about his age, but they like the vision of the company. They think they can make a lot of money this way. And I'm candid in accepting what I know and don't know.
Yeah, well, good on
him. To him.
Good on him.
So he's going to get one of those medals off of the Queen, the King.
The King. Well, good on him, actually.
At some point, surely. When he hits 23.
Yeah. No, I think it's those sort of minds which will save the planet ultimately.
I think so, yeah.
Fraser, Mary Ann, thank you. We'll see you a little bit later on.